I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Kitchen is excused. Councilman Morrow. Councilman Segundo.
Here.
Councilman Van Cleef.
Here.
Supervisor Clayton.
Here, thank you.
Jim is muted.
So are there any additions or changes to the agenda tonight? Thank you. Public discussion on agenda items. Since we have an in-public audience tonight, are there any members of the audience that would like to make comments on the agenda items for tonight? Mr. Obujeski, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I have two questions on the agenda. One has to do with the second to the last item on the agenda. It calls for the creation of a local law to create a comptroller position. Before there is a vote taken, could someone explain what the board's thinking was that led to this vote and the other options that were considered? The second thing is something that's not on the agenda, and that's the New York City DEP DEIS, which is probably one of the hottest issues before us, and yet it is noticeably absent from tonight's meeting. And I'd like to know what happened to the public suggestion, or the suggestion rather, of a public outreach session with the DEP. So where do we stand? Where does the town stand in relationship to the DEIS? Thank you.
Thank you. And we will proceed through the agenda, and I will take up those issues when we get there. Are there any communications? No communications. Thank you. Committee reports, personnel.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, myself and Councilman Van Cleef, we have met with the building department, the water department, and wastewater. We checked with them about their personnel, any problems that were going on with the plant itself. And I'd like happily to say that everything ran smooth in each department. And I want to thank each department for their helping us, letting us come in here and talk with them, which we will be doing probably every 3 or 4 months. We will check in with each department. Next on our agenda is the highway department, and then we're going to go see the chief up there.
Okay, very good. Finance.
Okay, we've been reviewing the expenses on a monthly basis, doing the abstract. Nothing seems to be out of the norm. It was 2 months ago, we had some large expenses due to equipment purchases that were planned. Everything looks fine, everything's balanced, and as Suzanne reported, I think the tax collection looked like it was fine.
Very good. Building.
buildings, the police department is coming right along, and we should be moving into the new digs downstairs by the end of April. The trailers will be out of here late April. But I guess we have to pay for them through May because that was our contract. But that's all going well. Everybody's pretty excited about it.
Okay, is there anything else? Building?
Nothing that I have.
Okay. That concludes committee reports for tonight. Thank you. We will take committee reports up in 90 days from tonight. Moving on to old business. Last meeting, we had a discussion about a constituent complaint about traffic on Old Sawkill Road. After the meeting, I was reminded I failed to call for a motion to authorize the town clerk to request a speed study from NISDOT for Old Sawkill Road. Thank you, Suzanne, for reminding me that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen is excused. Councilman Morrow.
Yes.
Councilman Secretto.
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleef.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The next item is a discussion on the Town of Ulster summer camp plans. We have an evolving situation here. In the press today on Bloomberg, there was an article that suggested that the younger portion of the population was becoming more susceptible to infection from COVID-19 as they got out and about. And the town board wants to be cautious in establishing a program that may serve to be an incubator of infection. So I'll open the floor for discussion if anyone wants to answer or add to that.
Well, I understand that the COVID's going around and then those surges are coming up. But I have a feeling that our kids need to get out into the open again and socialize. They more or less, they've been locked up for a year in their house facing a computer. I don't have a problem opening the camp. We can open up the camp at 50%, which is probably 100 to 125 kids. We'll wear masks, they'll have their temperatures taken. I mean, there are two schools in town, Crosby and Chambers. These kids probably haven't been face to face with their friends in a year. They're probably just FaceTiming them on their phones. The governor, I think this week has opened up vaccines for everyone, hasn't he? The next week or two.
I believe it's all adults,
16 and over.
16 and over.
And the children, younger children are less likely to come down with the COVID. That's been out there. If parents don't want their kid to go to the camp, you don't send them. I mean, that's the choice they have. But I had put something online on Facebook the other day, opinions from parents to see if who would want or what, if they thought camp should be open. I got approximately 30 parents got back to me. 28 of them wanted the camp open. They want their kids out there. Last year, Sorbities and the YMCA had camps open. They had no problems. I managed a travel baseball team. We played over 50 games last year. There was no problems. And this is at a Newburgh site where there's probably 700 to 800 games played during the summer. No COVID. The health departments come to the field and make sure everybody has their mask on and the kids are separated outside the dugouts. I mean, there's ways to make things work.
One, it's not just COVID, Mr. Secreto. We had a discussion 2 weeks ago about staffing. How have you made progress on staffing?
Staffing, I have talked to 2 people about running the camp. I got another application today. We put Indeed, we had 10 applications come through Indeed that we might have to interview these people. We can put a notice out there for camp counselors. I mean, if we don't have camp, just forget about that. But I think it'll work.
Have you gotten indications of camp counselors?
We got about 5 in already,
Okay.
and we haven't even put a notice out yet.
Okay, would you provide the supervisor's office a written plan on how you would staff a camp for 125 students with a budget, please?
Yep.
Prior to the next meeting.
I'll do
Thank you.
that.
Any other comments?
When do you need to know, what's the cutoff date as to whether we're gonna do camp or not?
Well, camp usually opens, say school got out on a Friday, camp usually opens up that Monday. So I think school goes out on probably around June 20th, around there.
The 28th of June would be that Monday that can't.
Is that what it was? We looked at?
So
So we still have a little time.
so there are still some concerns we want to address. And
Yes.
so we don't have to make a decision tonight.
No.
So at this moment, I'm
No,
not.
these are my opinions. You know, each board member can throw their opinion out there right now.
I agree with Councilman Secreto. I think it's very important that we try to open the camps, but we open the camps safely and have proper distancing and so forth, even maybe some additional training for all the counselors to make sure that it is done safely. The socialization the kids are missing because of COVID, it is going to affect them the rest of their lives. And I think it's important that they get out there in a safe manner, interact as safely as possible, and that we try to move in that direction as safely as possible.
The other thing I'd like to point out, I see Jason here. Maybe Jason, you could look up to see what our liability is on this. Sorganies has a written plan online with their applications. Each parent will get to read. I did notice that the other day. So if you want to go on their site and look that up.
That's a-
Would that be a rider policy to go along with?
We would have to have a waiver if parents sign. Maybe, they accept the risks, that we put in that. But, yeah, we certainly will.
Okay, we'll bring this back for discussion at the next meeting. Mr. Petremall, the next item is in relation to the Highway Department. Would you just give us a quick 2 seconds of what we did here?
Yeah, basically, it's 4 bids that are gonna outfit the 3 chassis that we purchased in August and January. Body, the plow, and the sander. For all 3 trucks. So that's 4 that are listed here.
Okay. So gentlemen, we have gone to bid. Mr. Petremall has made a recommendation that the town proceed to award the contracts RFB TOUH 2021-01 through 04 for the purchase of truck bodies for the Highway Department in accordance with the memo presented herein. May I have a motion?
I'll make it.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Kitchen is excused. Councilman Bond.
Yes.
Councilman Secretary.
Yes.
Councilman Van Fleet.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. As the community knows, the improvements for the Katrine Lane Sewer District extension were completed last year. The sewer district is functioning. It was intended from the beginning that this area be added to the Ulster Sewer District as a legal entity, as it does discharge into the Ulster wastewater treatment plant. In order to accomplish the legal process of consolidating the Katrine Lane area into the Ulster Sewer District, we are required to offer a resolution and order calling for a public hearing. So tonight I present a resolution and order scheduling a public hearing for the Katrine Lane Sewer District extension to the Ulster Sewer District for May 6th, 2021 at 7:10 PM here in the town hall to take public comment on the proposed action. May I have a motion on the resolution to set the public hearing?
I'll make it.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Kitchen is excused. Councilman Morrow.
Yes.
Councilman Secretary.
Yes.
Councilman Van Fleet.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The town of Ulster has applied for and received a grant from the Environmental Facilities Corporation for the replacement of the portable water storage tank and related improvements for the Halcyon Park Water District. The grant contract has been signed and dated April 22nd and returned to the Environmental Facilities Corporation. We cannot go to bid until we receive the regulatory approvals from the Health Department and the EFC on the construction plans and specifications. Tonight, I present a resolution authorizing the advertisement for bids for contract number TU 211, replacement of potable water storage tank and related improvements for the Halcyon Park Water District to be publicly bid as soon as practicable after the receipt of the regulatory approvals.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Kitchen is excused. Councilman Morrow.
Yes.
Councilman Soprano.
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleave.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The next item is a personnel matter.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. The Highway Department, Highway Superintendent Frank Petromal, he's requesting the seasonal summer employees. We've done this in the past. What I'll do is I'll read their names off, their start date and the rate of pay. These employees were paid out of the beautification wage line. Dustin Bennett, Jacob Freer, Patrick Watska, Vincent Perpetua, Owen Davis. Their start date will be 6/01/21. Rate of pay will be $13 an hour. Tentative finish date would be September 1st. I ask for a motion on that group, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen excused. Councilman Morrow.
Yes.
Councilman Soprano.
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleave.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you.
The second one here, these employees are going to be paid out of line item number 5110.100. Ken Narone and Justin Denny. Start date will be April 5th. Rate of pay is $15 an hour. And tentative date to finish is to be announced later. Frank, you might use them later on. Yes, for a motion to hire those two employees.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Kitchen excused. Councilman Morrow.
Yes.
Councilman Soprano.
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleave.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. The next item on our agenda is a discussion on town law, section 174, the taxi law. And in the package is a memorandum from Chief Berardi in reference to the taxi law. So I would ask Mr. Berardi to approach the podium and give us a brief synopsis of what you're recommending here. Before you all stand socially distance.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Back in 1998, the town board had adopted a law, local law number 174, relative to the regulation of taxi in the town of Ulster. From my recollection, and when I was speaking to the people that were present during that time, there was issues with complaints relative to taxi cabs. Back in its prime, taxi, there was about 12 or a dozen taxi cabs operating in the town of Ulster. From the records we have now, there's only about 4. Obviously, as the years have passed, Uber, Lyft, and additional public transportation has come about. With that in mind, I'm requesting the board to repeal the current law as it doesn't really fit the need of the current issues right now.
Discussion?
I'm in favor of this. I think it's great that we're repealing a law, not making a law.
I think personally, this is a good law to repeal. I think a lot has changed in the town of Ulster regarding public transportation and private transportation with taxis. We don't have a mall like we had before, which created a lot of taxi traffic from the city of Kingston into the town of Ulster. And things have changed, and I just don't think it's needed anymore.
Giving the history of why this law was implemented back in the 90s,
and having been supervisor for 11, going on 12 years now, none of the issues that caused the implementation of this law have come to my attention in the last 11 years being in the supervisor's office. And yet we have a number of restrictions on drivers and companies from conducting business in the town of Ulster. I am in support of asking the town attorney to draw a law repealing section 174. And that's what I'd like to call for a motion tonight, to request the town attorney to do so, with the understanding that if the facts and circumstances in the community change and the complaints about unsafe equipment, poor driving, rip-offs on fares, if they resume, that the town board be prepared to re-implement regulations on the taxi business, because that is what we try to stop for the benefit of the public in this community. We wanted a safe and viable means of transportation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any additional discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen is excused. Councilman Mara.
Yes.
Councilman Saketa.
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleef.
Yes.
Supervisor Winston.
Yes, thank you. The next two items on our agenda are merely presentations of resolutions to be voted on at the next meeting. There is nothing for this town board to do tonight. So I will respond to Mr. Objeski's questions over the town controller's law. Number one, this is a law moving the question about the creation of the office of the town controller to the ballot in November of 2021, giving the citizens of this community the opportunity to express their opinions about this change. The reason that it is going to a public referendum is because the position of town controller relieves the town board of statutory obligations to audit the claims against the town. This is not necessarily a function that can be replaced through a rented employee or an independent contractor. Other communities that use outside accountants for their accounting function still require the town board to actively audit the claims against the town. One of the major time-consuming events on a monthly basis for the town board is the review of claims. And that is after they have gone through the department heads and the supervisor's office, and they serve as a third check. So that is primarily what we're talking about. But more importantly, what we're hoping to do is to elevate the skill level in the supervisor's office for financial accounting purposes and financial analysis purposes. It's evident by the fact that I've been here for 11 years that the citizens have been happy with the way that I have conducted the financial affairs of the town, but I am a certified public accountant. There is no guarantee that the next supervisor is going to be a certified public accountant or have the level of business skills that I have. Therefore, I believe it's critical that the town possess the financial skills within the supervisor's office to operate efficiently without me. Yes, and I'm making this about me. Because if the people that oppose this law sat in the office for the last 11 years and discovered the same stuff that I discovered, they would be asking for the same thing. For example, within 6 months of being in office, I questioned the electric bill for a traffic signal light at the intersection of Lowmeyer Lane and Neighborhood Road. A light that had a bag placed over it in 1995. And the town had been paying electric charges for it from 1995 to 2010. Nobody asked. And the fact that the town's insurance was never bid and then was bid twice in a period of 3 years, saving the town over $150,000. These are the types of questions that someone who sits in the office on a day-to-day basis, observes facts and circumstances, and comes to the conclusion that something is wrong. It takes time for these problems to be found. I continue today, 11 years later, to find things that are not right. They're not material, but they still come up. And $100 here or $500 there over the course of a period of a year comes to real money. So, Mr. Obujeski, I think because of the fact that this is the third time that this matter has come to the town board, this is the third time that the town board has considered moving this to the public realm. I think it's time we let the citizens of the community make a decision as to how they want their town financially managed. And I hope my explanation is adequate for you. Second issue that I was questioned on relates to the matter of the Esopus Creek. There was a suggestion that a public meeting be held that include the DEC, the DEP, the towns, and the county, along with other agencies or associations that have an interest in the issues of the Esopus Creek. This meeting is going to be a cooperative meeting because we have to invite a lot of officials. Yesterday afternoon, Mr. Paul Rush, Commissioner of the New York City DEP, called me after he received my email and read the article in the Kingston Freeman. And we had a long discussion, and we are scheduling a meeting for next week with the supervisors and the mayor to discuss how the elected officials at the local level wish the DEP to move forward. And that's why that matter does not appear on tonight's agenda, because we don't control the meeting. It is a cooperative exercise, and I'm attempting to obtain the cooperation of the DEP before we call for a meeting of all parties and then find out that somebody doesn't want to show up. Thank you for nodding your head. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes tonight's scheduled agenda.
We do have one other item about the signs. We have to discuss.
These are two items I grouped together as a presentation. I will make an explanation on that. Thank you. 2019, the town board put forth a new law regulating digital signs, which were appearing in an increasing amount in the retail corridor in the town. We referred these laws to the planning and the zoning boards, which at the time had to come to an agreement on the design of the law and then the implementation of the law. Mr. Jeffrey Ring, then chairman of the zoning board, now chairman of the planning board, Mr. Rob Porter, who is currently the chairman of the planning board and was a member of the zoning board when this law was originally advanced, has contacted me and said, we would like to attempt to reconcile this law and move forward. So tonight we're presenting the local law for publication on the town's website. I will ask for a motion from this town board that we forward in our official capacity as the town board, we forward this law to the planning and zoning boards and ask them to put it on their agenda for reviews.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Kitchen is excused. Councilman Morrow.
Yes.
Councilman Sartreto.
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleave.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. And with that, I will open the floor to comment on any matter. Mr. Van Cleek?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to echo on the position of the comptroller. I have discussed both with the state comptroller's office and with the county's comptroller's office, this, whether we need this or not. And it's been recommended by both of their offices because of the size of the financial transactions that are done in the town of Ulster, that we give serious consideration and put it out to voter consideration, the position of the comptroller. I didn't know what their opinion would be on it. I thought maybe they might say it's not advised for a town of our size, or it is. They were surprised that we've gone this long without a comptroller. So my year and a half experience with doing the abstracts and being involved, I think we do an adequate job, but I think it's beyond us in our level to be able to do the full extent of the job that would be better for the town. So I'm comfortable with bringing this forward when we do vote on it. I'm comfortable bringing it forward to the public for them to vote on this position, because I think it will bring a little more financial accountability and lack of vulnerability based on just the supervisor, wherever that would be. Because then you have some shared responsibility at an executive level for the financial operations of the town. Maybe a little overlap or stuff like that. So I just wanted to give that point that I've got encouragement from both state and county level that they believe the town's going in the right direction. And I don't see this costing the town more money. I see this coming out as a, what do you call that? A net neutral sum, what do they call it thing that, the neutral gain, it's a wash, because we'll be able to save some money. So.
It's interesting that when I came into office, I noticed that the town of Ulster, by resolution of the New York State legislature and a signature of the New York State governor, was classified as a town of the second class in 1972. And when I called Albany and asked them for an explanation, and they couldn't tell me why we had asked for it, something didn't feel right. But a town of the first class is a town that the town of Ulster meets the qualifications for by population. And a town of the first class would automatically have a town controller. So I think that back in 1972, the town met the qualifications of being a first-class town. And somebody made a decision not to be a first-class town. So,
Nobody knows the answer.
and nobody knows the answer because I asked for the bill packet, which would have had the explanations on the cover for the legislation, and they don't keep the bill packets that long.
So I understand the concern by some people. They think we're just adding to the bureaucracy. They think we're adding to unnecessary expense. But as I've seen the interaction with the different departments here and the amount of paperwork and cross-examination that really does need to be done. And again, I want to bring up this point again of vulnerability. We got a lot of responsibility in one person right now. And I do think sharing that responsibility will strengthen the town and maybe allow the supervisor to be out and about a bit more rather than behind the pencil, having to push it, which has been appreciated, but I think there's more to be done. We can do better.
Any additional discussion?
I agree with Councilman Van Cleek that this could very well be a absolute wonderful office, and I think the town should have that office here. Historically, if you look at the supervisors that have served the town over the years, we've had farmers and engineers and a number of other occupations, teachers, and right through on up to CPAs. Most of them weren't really qualified to handle the financial things in the town. We've been very fortunate in the last 12 years to have one of the top experts in the county, maybe even in the state, leading the town. And he's done an awesome job. And part of our responsibility as a board, and not just as a board, but as the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Conservative Party, part of their responsibility is to mentor and bring in qualified people for the next generation. I think that this will help do that, where we can have a supervisor, a councilman, or whatever in the future who has an accounting staff to handle things for them that will take a lot of the pressure off, so they can handle the things that they really need to handle on a day-to-day basis. When I listen to the supervisor, everything keeps blowing up all around him all day long. And he handles the issues and problems. And then he has to jump back into the accounting part of it. But if he didn't have to deal so much with the accounting, he can handle those other problems more effectively. And that's just my thought. Thank you.
You know, a lot have changed since 1980, 1970 to where we are now. The financial situations with every town is, you got to watch every penny you have. And I credit the supervisor for that. I mean, as a board, we've kept taxes very low compared to the other towns in the county. But bringing this before us and bringing it before the people for a vote is the best way to go. They have the choice. That's all I need.
Okay, with that, I will open the floor to any public comment. Ms. Bell? Are you on mute?
Okay, yes.
Not now.
Okay, I just wanted to know what was the proposed budget for this position? And not in the 70s is when IBM left, and there weren't 20,000 employees coming into the town. So that's probably a lot of the change in status. But yeah, I just was wondering how much you expect to be spending.
First of all, the current budget has a bookkeeper's compensation of $60,000. And there's a payroll clerk in there for another $15,000.
And will the comptroller be doing those tasks?
The current setup is that the bookkeeper's salary is, the bookkeeper's functions are being performed by the supervisor, and the payroll is being done by the supervisor's secretary. We were going to have a discussion on how that continues. As it relates to the functions, the bookkeeper's function has basically changed over the last 10 years as we've increased the computerization in the town supervisor's office with the accounting software that we have implemented. No longer is there a long process for preparing an abstract on a monthly basis. It's push a button. No longer is it a long process for processing payables. They are done at the front end by the accounts payable or the clerk that's in the supervisor's office as she enters the vouchers. So I suspect that there will be some changes in individuals' responsibilities, but I would prefer to leave it to the controller to determine what's the best allocation of the responsibilities within the offices they see fit. Now, I will also say, I am not certain that a controller is a full-time position in the town of Ulster, because my contemplation is that the controller should handle the financial statement preparation, the AUD preparation, the SEC documentation preparation, the budget process, and the audit function.
Okay, do you have a line item that you're going to propose for that?
I do not have a proposed line item.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any additional comments from anyone? Mr. Obujeski? You're on mute.
Yep, I got it. Thank you. Thank you Supervisor. And I appreciate your responding to both of my questions, and I appreciate that. With regard to the comptroller position, I completely support it. And I appreciate the corroboration by Councilman Van Cleek. There's no two ways about it that you're not going to be here forever, Mr. Quigley. And for the sake of our town, I think this is a good judgment call. I think we really need the proper analysis and auditing functions that come with the position that you suggest. So I certainly support it. Thank you.
Are there any additional comments on Zoom?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much, and we will see you on the 15th of April for the town board meeting. We will combine public participation here in the courtroom, and hopefully we will have a proper Zoom connection at that time. Thank you very much.